In this lesson, we will learn how to draw the shoulders and the arms on our female subject. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so in the previous lesson, I left off by briefly talking about how we can begin working in the shoulder areas on our female subject. And we can do that by thinking about the neck and its relationship between the distance from shoulder to shoulder. So coming back to that T shape that we incorporated in the second lesson, when I created this horizontal line making up the top part of the T, in the back of my mind I was thinking about the width of the neck. So we can gauge from shoulder to shoulder the overall width by taking the width of the neck and multiplying it times 4 all the way across. And that'll give us an approximate appropriate distance all the way across the top there. So to further illustrate this, over in my layers panel I have a layer which I've titled Arm-Shoulder Proportions. So this is just going to give us a few markers. We'll start to talk more about this marker over here as we get into the arms, but just to further illustrate, we can see that width right there, and then I've taken that and multiplied it times 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way across. So now we can start to work in our shoulders. So we're going to do the shoulders and the arms just on this layer here, which I've just titled Arms. So we're making sure we're on that layer. I'm going to grab my brush tool once again, and we'll just kind of zoom in. So we can kind of imagine this whole area up here kind of like a coat hanger, just to really simplify it as a simple shape in our mind, kind of like we've done with the rib cage and the pelvic area, just breaking it down into a very simple form that will still give us something that it does indeed feel realistic. So we're just going to kind of come off the end of this marker point here, kind of rounding it off. And it's not going to be a perfect straight line like a coat hanger. There's going to be a little bit of a dip right in there. And a lot of it does have to do with how muscular she is, but we're going to kind of play it to a medium level right here, kind of medium ground. So you'll have something kind of like that, where it kind of dips right in there and then kind of works its way up into the neck like so. It's almost like a very, very semi-flattened kind of S coming in like that. And so we want to work in the same kind of overall line over here on the opposite end. And so there we go. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4 across. So this is a nice little system that you may want to try in just kind of gauging the shoulder width. And it'll keep your female relatively from having too wide of shoulders, from going too far out. The wider we make the shoulders, the more emasculated your subject will become, and it'll kind of take away from that female aspect that you're trying to go for. So now you may have noticed these marks over here, these lines over here in purple. You're probably wondering what that is for. Well, these are basically some markers that I put in place to help us gauge the length of our arm. So I like to think of the arm is in two pieces, the upper arm and the forearm, and then we have the hand down here below the wrist. So the upper arm, just this whole area up here, you can kind of think of it as being just slightly longer than the forearm. So right to here would be that point where the arm starts to bend at the elbow. So just kind of continuing that shoulder down into the arm. All right. So something like that would be our forearm. Just kind of continuing that curve of the shoulder. The other part of the arm is going to meet just slightly below the shoulder right over here. And later on we're going to kind of talk about working in the breasts on the torso and how they kind of work into this area as well. But for now, that is our upper part of our arm. Now the widest part of the arm below the shoulder, below the deltoid, is going to be right below the elbow here, where you have that bone of the elbow that kind of sticks out. So it's going to kind of come out just a little bit, like that. Okay, and then from there, it's going to start to taper in much thinner than before into the wrist. And we could even put like a little line right in here just to kind of further illustrate where the arm bends. So we have our upper arm and our forearm, and then for the hand, our hand is going to fall right in line kind of along the side of the thigh. We'll have like a little bump right there for the wrist. We can just kind of start to block in, rough in the hand right now. So let me have something kind of like that. Okay, so that's basically how we can work in, kind of gauge our upper arm and our forearm. You'll also notice that the mid part of where the elbow is kind of falls in line with kind of the midpoint, kind of the middle of the waist right here. So what we can do is basically continue on and work in the arm over here on the screen left. So in the next lesson, we're going to focus on incorporating the legs onto our female subject. So we'll see you then.